on hope, mocked into existence, and now quietly saving lives you'll never read about in headlines. And it all began with a laugh. His rarely arrive with trumpets. They creep in quietly, often when we're at our weakest, when the body is tired but the mind refuses to sleep. That night, after the boy finally stabilized, I sat alone in the on-call room, staring at the wall like it might whisper answers. My shirt clung to my skin, soaked with sweat and fear. My hands still ached from hours of squeezing that bag. And in the back of my mind, a single thought looped over and over again like a song you can't turn off. We have the knowledge. We have the tools. We just don't have enough of them. I couldn't shake the image of the boy's father. He had stood silently by the bed, watching strangers fight for his child's life, his hands twitching, desperate to help but powerless to do so. His eyes said what his mouth never dared, please don't stop. And yet, we almost did. Not because of ignorance, not because of incompetence, but because there simply weren't enough ventilators to go around. That injustice burned like acid in my chest. Medicine, for all its brilliance, still failed in places where money was scarce, where supply never met demand. And I knew this wasn't just about our hospital. This story played out every day in hospitals around the world. Babies, trauma victims, pneumonia patients, all suffocating not because their conditions were untreatable, but because someone else got the last machine. I thought of the resuscitation bag, that simple plastic balloon we squeezed for hours. It was almost mocking in its simplicity. A child's toy in appearance, but in reality, a fragile bridge between life and death. It required no electricity, no complicated software, just hands. Strong, steady, tireless hands. Hands we didn't have. That was when the absurd question slipped through. Why not replace the hands? It was so obvious I almost laughed at myself. Replace the hands. Not with another doctor, not with another nurse, but with something that never tires, never loses rhythm, never hesitates. I grabbed a scrap of paper, the back of a lab request form, and started to draw. The first sketch looked like a child's art project, a box, a hinge, a lever pressing on the bag in a slow, steady rhythm. Air in, air out, again, 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 a heartbeat of plastic and steel. The next few nights were worse than insomnia. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Could it be built cheaply? Could it be safe? Could it run on a battery if the power failed? Every question was a spark, and every spark lit a fire. I scavenged the hospital's storage rooms, searching for parts no one would miss. I studied the way machines compressed ventilator bags in intensive care, then stripped the idea down to its skeleton. I wasn't trying to compete with expensive ventilators. I was trying to build a bridge, something so simple, so obvious, that even the poorest hospital could afford it. I ran my hand over the first crude model like a proud but cautious parent. It was ugly. A Frankenstein of scrap metal, rubber bands, and salvaged motor parts. It looked more like a science fair disaster than a medical device. But in my heart, it pulsed with possibility. The first time it squeezed a bag, it felt like watching a baby take its first breath, clumsy, imperfect, but alive. I tested it on dummies first, then on test lungs,